I definitely what's really interesting to me is I started treating this game like an MMO, and at least in my headspace, because I know it's a single player RPG, but it's so deep that I'm beginning to feel as if it's an experience where, like with an MMO, let's say I go play Star Wars Old Republic uh, tomorrow, right? I play World of Warcraft pretty regularly, so this is
Man
another good
cannot live by
example.
bread alone, but he can't live without it
Um,
either.
that's a good sales pitch. Man cannot live by bread alone, but he can't live without it either.
Cucumbers, lovely cucumbers, asparagus and
Bread!
prunes.
I do like
Bread!
asparagus.
Rolls and pretzels!
Um, I play World of Warcraft 2 times, 3 times a week, and I have been since when did I start playing? Like November of last year. And before that, I go through cycles of like Lord of the Rings Online, Star Wars Old Republic. You guys have been if you've been here on my channel for a while, you've seen me play. I've played MMOs the whole time this has existed. Um, but single player RPGs usually you come in and you're done within a few weeks at most. A couple weeks, few weeks. Some games they'll take a little longer. Um, but for the most part, you can do it in a cycle of 2 to 3 weeks. And shorter, with some games. Like God of War was 7 days um, from start to finish. Like that's a 40-hour game that I just did in a week. Assassin's Creed Valhalla, I've talked about this recently. Origins in particular too. Origins of Valhalla, each one of those games took me 3 to 6 months to beat, just because I was playing it 2 to 3 times a week on week after week, until I finally beat them. Because I do like those big worlds where you can go and do lots of different things, and I don't care about, oh, it's a repeatable quest or it's procedure. I don't care. Like Radiant, procedural, handwritten, as long as I'm having fun. And I like big games. And this one, whoever's singing is singing really annoyingly because I'm trying to talk, man. Hush. Um, but I'm having
Good
enough
health to
fun in
you.
this game where it's kind of like when you can immerse yourself in a world and there's enough there to keep you busy and constantly learning and doing things. That's the key. That's the key. And not every game has to be that way. I had this discussion with Gila. I think when we were coming out of, it was either right before Baldur's Gate 3 or right after Baldur's Gate 3. It was when we were playing Diablo 4, which it was before, but I think it was maybe after the launch and we were doing some of the seasonal stuff in Diablo 4. It doesn't matter. Timeline doesn't matter. I remember we were discussing one time and he was, and rightfully so. It's a different point of view, which is great to understand. And he's not wrong. Not every game needs to be a massive game. Now, I have publicly said in many places, I'm very much am a believer in if you're going to charge me $70 for something, or 60 or whatever, if you're going to charge me full price for something, I want to get a minimum of 40 hours out of it, 40 to 50 hours. If you're charging me $70 and I'm getting a 10-hour experience or, even a 25-hour experience, I'm going to feel, that 25-hour experience, by the way, it's very rare for me to feel like I've gotten my money's worth unless that 25-hour experience is like game of the year type experience. Um, but, spending $70 and getting 40 hours out of something, right? That's always been my minimum. But I appreciate depth, and so games like Cyberpunk and Baldur's Gate 3 or this game as examples, I do like big games. I tend to gravitate over my lifespan. I've tended to gravitate more towards the big games. Um, but he wasn't wrong. At the time it was kind of like, But I will say that here I am a year on from that discussion, and I can also say that my POV has shifted slightly to the point where because there's the aspect of what I do for a living now, which has changed the way I play games. And I don't think it's better or worse. I think it's just the evolution of streamlining your process when you when you convert your hobby into something that you're making a living at, there are some things that shift along the way. And now I very much appreciate his commentary on, not every game needs to be this massive 6-month experience. Like, this is going to be fun for me to do. But I'm also having fun doing things like going over here and playing, Midnight Suns was fun. Fallout 4 is fun right now. Fallout 76 is fun. I'm about to do Hellblade 1 now that we're into May. So I'll probably do that. Honestly, if everything is good this week with the animals and everything else, I'll probably try to sneak that Hellblade playthrough in this week. I know a lot of people were asking me why I didn't play Stellar Blade. It was like, I'm not huge on the Soul-like games in the first place. You've seen me complain about those types of games in the past, and I feel like that one it's a Souls-like. I did play the demo. I think I did a first impressions of the demo here on the channel, and that probably would have been a somewhat entertaining 30 to 40 hours, but also I feel like I would not have been able to resist layering on social commentary about the ridiculousness of the skin suit and everything else. Like, it just makes me chuckle. Which is why I come back to games like this, where I'm immersed in the game and I'm living Henry's life, as opposed to those types of games where it's mostly just about something visual and esoteric that you're going to get a quick 30, 40 hours out of and then move on to something else. And it will be like a blip, a fun blip, but it won't be much more than a blip. I do appreciate bigger games, but for the purposes of content creation and streaming, I also appreciate shorter games now, because it means I can go in and do something within a week or two, and that fits in with the cyclical nature of most people's attention span in terms of viewers. Most people start to get to the fatigue point after about 8 to 10 days, and by 2 weeks in, you'll know by 2 weeks in if you have a loyal following for the game you're playing, or if I've said this before elsewhere. By about 6 episodes in, I know whether or not it's worth continuing. So all anyone ever has to do to know whether or not the audience was good watching things on my channel is just look at the number count. Because if we get up to the teens, we're doing pretty good. If we get up into the 20s, we're doing. If we get up into the 30s, it's by the time we get up into the teens or 20s, we know whether or not we're going to get a full playthrough out of something, because the audience is sticking around for it and they're reacting to it. And that's something that I think is really cool. But that cyclical nature means those things usually happen over a 2-week window of time. I think the most recent was Dragon's Dogma 2. That was about 8 days or something like that. I think probably if you look at the total coverage I did for that game, it was about a month of coverage. But it was really only about 2 weeks of playtime, because there was a lot of ramp up, and then there was like 7 or 8 days of actual playtime, and then about another week post playtime making final thoughts and other commentary videos and the final review and stuff. So, doing all of that in a cycle of about 2 weeks for the gameplay and a month in total. It's nice when you can find those things that take up a small chunk but not a huge chunk. This is a lot of fun. I will say this is the most fun I've had in an RPG since Baldur's Gate 3 and Cyberpunk last year. Cyberpunk 2017. It was funny because Cyberpunk came out right around the same time as Starfield, or right after Starfield, the Phantom Liberty thing. And so I had a lot of fun in Starfield, not going to lie. I did 350 hours. Where did you come from? Smeagol. I didn't know you were in here. Thank you, Chris. Come here, buddy. Come here. You gotta come with Daddy. You want to say hi real quick? You gonna say hi? You got caught. Jumping on desks. What are you looking at? You good boy. I'll be right back, everybody. Anyway, playing Phantom Liberty right after Starfield was like as much fun as I had in Starfield, happily will do a second playthrough. Can't wait to do a second playthrough before the Shattered Skies expansion that's coming this fall. Phantom Liberty made Starfield, it paled in comparison. Like, it was such a difference in cinematic storytelling that was like, oh, this is different. This is different. And those kind of experiences that you can live in, I really appreciate. Anyway, I was rambling, and that's a good thing that Smeagol interrupted me, because that's going to interrupt my rambling so that this doesn't turn into a 45-minute discussion on early morning coffee and medication. We're at 24 minutes in.